DeJounte Murray got traded to the Pelicans last night. We weren't able to record a video, but today we just did a Bleacher Report stream. We're in studio, so we wanted to put out a video for you guys and talk about this DeJounte Murray trade. So DeJounte was traded to the Pelicans, and the Hawks received Dyson Daniels, Larry Nance, and 2 first-round picks. Dyson Daniels was mentioned in the trade much later than when the initial news came out. So I'll just tell you guys, like, my initial reaction, I was like, wow, Larry Nance and 2 firsts. That is all day for DeJounte Murray. And I was like, how could the Hawks possibly do this? But once I saw Dyson Daniels included in the deal, I think the Hawks are making some really good moves. I know that it's very popular right now to shit on everything they do, whether it's trading somebody, whether it's who they draft. Like they got bashed for drafting Shea with the first overall pick. But if you look at this roster from the perspective of keeping Trae Young, let's say he doesn't get traded to the Spurs, you have Jalen Johnson who can take a leap this upcoming season. You have good center play with Clint and Onyeka. You have wings in DeAndre Hunter, Shea. Dyson Daniels now comes to town. They are adding some defensive pieces to this team while still also maximizing Trae Young and making sure that he has the ball. I have some net rating numbers from the Hawks this past season. This past season, when Trae and DeJounte were on the court together, they had a minus 6.2 net rating and 2.62 net rating, minus 2.62 net rating in 2,779 minutes. With Trae Young and no DeJounte, it was plus 2.78. And then with DeJounte, no Trae, it was minus 1.12. This was an odd fit from the get-go. Yeah. And I think it was clear that Trae Young has to be the guy to have the ball. You're at his best. The Hawks are at their best when he's making most of the decisions. So I think even if they don't trade him, they're probably in a good position moving forward just because they've been adding some wing depth to this team.
It's always been the idea that you should surround Trae Young with defense. You understand that him alone, he's still going to be great offensively. May have not been he's not the most efficient point guard at this point in time. You'd like him to clean that up a little bit, but we still see Trae Young maneuvering top 5, top 7 offenses. He's a great offensive engine. He just needs the rest of his surrounding parts to be sound defensively and that can space the floor. That's really why we saw Shea really climb up the boards heavily, because he can space and he is a very versatile defender. I just saw that without Dyson Daniels, I say, and people were on me for giving praise to Dyson Daniels. As a defender, Dyson Daniels is a great piece. He does leave a lot to be desired on the offensive side. Right. We understand that. But still, surrounding Trae with defense is always going to be a plus. Now let's look at the opposite. You look at the Pelicans, and now they pick up a point guard that they've desperately been looking for since Lonzo Ball left them in free agency. Now you can move CJ back to the 2 where he can get back to his natural position, and now DeJounte Murray gets to be on ball a lot. This also is interesting because they did not have to include Brandon Ingram in the trade to acquire DeJounte Murray. What happens with Brandon Ingram? Is Brandon Ingram going to still be on the move? Are they going to run it back one more year, have him play the 3, and let the 2 of them be the playmakers of the offense? Now, is Zion Williamson, obviously, we understand he's the most essential part of the team. We know Zion's at his best when he's running the show, and Point Zion is one of the more real things that doesn't get enough credit in this league. How's that dynamic going to look? So for me, I do anticipate Brandon Ingram still going to be on the move because you do have Herb, you still have Trae, still one of the best wing defensive duos that you have in the league, right up there now next to Mikal and OG. And of course, let's respect Tatum and Jaylen Brown themselves. But all in all, to me, this made a lot of sense for New Orleans. You get your point guard, a guy that can initiate, a real point guard, and it wasn't that much. It didn't cost you that much. The Lakers pick next year is going to be average, in my opinion. We've seen the last 2 years, the Lakers pick at pick 17, 2 years in a row. I anticipate that this Lakers team will be better than the year before. So you trade that first round pick, that's whatever to me. Larry Nance, that's depth that you could have at the big position, but who really cares for just looking who Larry Nance is?
A lot of injury issues.
This was a great move for the Pelicans, but for the Hawks, we knew that the writing was on the wall. Trae and DeJounte simply was a failed project, and at least they got returned back.
Right. I like this trade for both sides. For the Hawks, getting 2 first-round picks, one of which, as you mentioned, is from the Lakers in 2025. It'll be an all right first-round pick in the teens. The second one is a 2027 pick from
Teens,
the Bucks.
don't sleep. You're sleeping.
Maybe a little bit. No, I probably am a tiny bit. I'm higher on the Lakers. And then the 27 pick is the least favorable between the Bucks and the Pelicans. But I think what's so fascinating about this trade is DeJounte getting to play in an offense that is filled with shot creation and good playmakers. Zion, if he's healthy, Brandon Ingram. You have CJ McCollum in the backcourt, so he's not going to be asked to have the same responsibility that he had in a place like San Antonio. So do we see that version of DeJounte defensively come back onto the horizon? Because he has not been anywhere near the guy he was in 2018, 2019. And I think as a whole for the Pelicans, what they really needed was more creation, more shooting. They get that creation, and admittedly, DeJounte has improved as a three-point shooter off the catch, playing alongside Trey. I think it's the best possible fit for him on a contender.
Glad you're waking up, John.
I'm not waking up. I'm just, actually maybe a tiny bit.
Yeah, no, I know.
Actually, maybe a tiny bit. Okay, listen, John. I think you laid that out perfectly, but I'm not moved by DeJounte Murray. I'm not. I think DeJounte Murray
Because without the Spurs, he'd be out the league.
Yeah, I think he's empty stats.
That's kind of been part of my perspective on him.
And
too.
I think post All-Star break with the Hawks when he averaged 24 and 7 and
He was
played
efficient
really well.
as hell. And as a
Yeah, he
mid-range
played really well.
shooter, he's drastically
Of course,
improved.
He's
I
gotten
can
so much
I
better
can
than
acknowledge
average.
that he played really well while also saying there was nobody on the court with him.
Yeah.
So he was able to do whatever the hell that he wanted.
They were playing
with the
games.
Spurs, he had his best year when he ran the show, but the team wasn't all that talented. My question marks with him is how real, how true of a point guard is he really?
Yeah.
Is he more of a combo guard who can from time to time get people into the right spots and pass and get these assists? Or is he somebody that's actually going to run an offense and get everybody involved? Because my biggest thing is now that you go to the Pelicans, maybe that defensive tenacity and ferociousness is increased with a team like that has more offensive firepower at its disposal. But offensively, what type of seed is he going to take? You know, is he going to play third fiddle to Zion and Brandon Ingram? Because I think simply as one-on-one scores, Zion and Ingram are better scorers than DeJounte.
Yeah,
Definitely.
easily.
And so that's my biggest question. If DeJounte is the third guy, how will his shots look? How much of a backseat is he taking?
Right.
You know, we've just seen it with Phoenix right now with Bradley Beal. You go from being the number one guy in Washington and you're getting all the looks, you're getting all the shots, to you have a very efficient season in Phoenix as a third option, but your impact isn't really felt that much. So is DeJounte going to have an all-star level impact with the Pelicans? I don't think so.
If he gets back to being the defensive or having the defensive prowess that he had back on San Antonio,
Close.
now
close
I'm
to that.
very intrigued.
Right.
If I'm the Pelicans.
I mean, that version of him at Herbert Jones would be disgusting. And he just drafted Vesmisi
Herb
as well
Jones,
to be
Trey
that.
Murphy, of course.
I like
You still
Messi
now
a
add
lot.
Misi's another one that was a great addition
That
to
is
add
what
to the
they
front
really
court.
badly needed, a rim protector, more than anything. That's the biggest problem with what Jonas Valanciunas never brought to you.
Yeah.
Now, for DeJounte, his role is going to be a lot like CJ McCollum. It's going to fluctuate all the damn time. There were nights where CJ was their third option. In the playing game, when Zion got hurt, Brandon Ingram got hurt, he plays like shit, he just can't get into rhythm. CJ McCollum went from being their third to their main creator doing everything. So I think for DeJounte, it's going to be him having to be a chameleon. Some nights he's going to be their fourth option. Some nights he's going to lead them in scoring, and it's going to be mainly because of injuries. To me, it also is hinting that they're going to be looking to maybe move Ingram. They're going to continue to shop him is the right way to put it, to try to upgrade this team. And I think as a whole, what his role is going to be, took 7 3-point attempts this year, playing off Trae Young, made 36% of them. He's going to get a lot of spot-up looks.
The one thing, I'm sorry, Joel, to cut you off there. The one thing that I feel like sits with me the wrong way is now the discourse that shifted onto Brandon Ingram's name. And I say that with the idea that when Brandon Ingram was healthy and Zion Williamson was healthy, this was a top 4 team in the Western Conference. And post All-Star break, there was a moment in time where there was a legitimate conversation of them being a top 3 team in the West, arguably top 3 team in the league, right behind the Celtics and the Nuggets. Right there, the Pelicans were playing that high level of basketball.
Awesome.
Their defense was unbelievable. Their interior, their perimeter, everything about them was clicking on all cylinders. And then Brandon Ingram gets injured. Yeah. And then Zion Williamson gets injured in the playing game versus the Lakers where he's going off. He has probably the best game of his NBA career, a 40 ball on Anthony Davis.
That was incredible, man.
I think that the discourse on Brandon Ingram has kind of shifted too negatively for my liking, but understanding that there is a style of basketball that New Orleans can play that can translate to winning, and we've seen that with Brandon Ingram and Zion on the court together.
And I think that's why they're going to be looking to shop Ingram more and more. It's injuries. That's what's really going to hold this team back.
Fair.
Because every time they get into rhythm, you feel like there's something clicking, somebody gets hurt. And we see it all the time in sports. The best teams that go the furthest are the teams that are the most durable, the ones that can last the longest. And physically, we've seen this story so many times with the Pelicans.
The thing is, though, they were going to lose in the first round anyway. They might have given OKC a bit of a fight, but
But
Well,
do
they
they
would've been
fall?
they would have been
do
a way
they
better
fall
seed,
to
though,
the
Joel. They
8th
wouldn't-
seed.
they would
if
not have been playing
Brandon gets
Oklahoma
hurt.
City.
They were consistently 4 and 5 all season long when the two were
They
healthy
wouldn't
and
play
playing
even
high
the
level
Clippers.
basketball.
I think they beat the Clippers. If Zion and Brandon Ingram are both healthy, I have them beating the
That's
Clippers.
not a
close
hot
series.
take.
That's close series.
But then again, it's a health thing. Is Kawhi healthy on the other side too? I still think the Pelicans are good enough to be a team like the Clips in the first round.
Listen, the thing that I hate about this Pelicans team right now is that, as it stands right now, the locked-in starters are DeJounte, CJ, Zion, BI, which
Herb.
means that who started at the 5?
Honestly, it might be yes.
That's fair.
Could be.
So right now you're having Herb Jones
But
and Trey
Herb
Murphy
started
come off
almost
the bench.
every single game.
Oh,
last
I know,
season.
but if you add in DeJounte, I mean, I don't think CJ is coming off the bench unless he accepts a 6-man
I
role.
wouldn't hate that.
I wouldn't
actually
hate
would
it
love
either,
that.
but I feel like at this point of his career, he was just their third best player last year.
He
I don't
was.
think he'll just come off the bench. So I feel like the Pelicans just don't make sense from a roster construction standpoint.
Yeah.
They just don't make sense. Brandon Ingram is a low-volume 3-point attempt kind of guy. DeJounte upped it this past season, and he really shot well from the corners, and we know what he offers as a mid-range shooter. And CJ also off the ball can really shoot as well, but it just feels like CJ to be at his best needs the ball. BI to be at his best needs the ball. DeJounte to be at his best needs the ball. Zion is the only one that can thrive off ball at a high level, but you want the ball in his hands.
Of course.
So your best player who's best when he's playing off the ball can play the best playing off ball. You want him with the ball. So now everybody's else games kind of takes a hit. This roster still doesn't make much sense to me.
Right, of
and
course.
Yves Misi is their starting center
20
as
years
of
old.
now, who's a rookie. I don't know if he's going to be ready to play day one. That's why I think the best trade that makes sense is probably like a Brandon Ingram for Jared Allen swap for Cleveland. That's probably what makes the most sense for them. And then you can start Herb Jones or Trey Murphy, most likely
Right.
Herb Jones, alongside your other guys.
To me, it's getting to the point where I need Trey Murphy and Herb Jones in my starting lineup every single night.
and you can't do that if you have CJ and BI.
You're right. That's why I think CJ does need to get delegated to that 6-man role.
That's
and
what I was thinking.
that's not a knock on him. That's understanding we need you to be in this role because we would be
Run that
so
second unit.
much better with you in our second unit going up against other teams' second units because you would go out there and do whatever you want.
Right. No, that would be a perfect fit for CJ long term.
For the Hawks, do you think that they're trading Trae Young, or do you think they're running it back with him one more year?
It would be so irresponsible if they traded Trae Young. Understanding you trade Trae Young, you have nothing. You have legitimately nothing to be excited about. And if you're a Hawks fan, you have to hope and pray at that point now, if you trade Trae Young, that whatever package we get is mind-blowing and Zachary Ricochet really has to be a number 1 overall talent. That's what you'd have to hope
he's
for.
not.
He's
But
not.
you cannot trade Trae Young. It would be foul play to do so.
Right. I think they kept their options open by making this trade because Dyson Daniels is someone to me coming off a torn meniscus that really can thrive playing off a Trae. I think they're kind of two totally different players, right? Dyson's this big 6'7" point of attack defender, is a good connected passer, but he really has not taken anything from 3. Just 2 attempts a game, 31%. How does he benefit playing off of someone like Trae, who gets you a lot of open shots? And then defensively, I like what they're doing. You have Dyson, DeAndre Hunter when he stays healthy, above average defender. You just took Ricochet. There's so many different wings they're adding more and more and stockpiling them. But I think the ultimate end game here is you're going to trading Trae Young 1 year from now. I joked about it on Twitter. I don't think this team has given him a chance to compete. And ironically, when I went to the NBA draft, it was kind of crazy. We somehow bumped into Trae Young because we were doing. I wasn't doing it. I'm proud to say I wasn't doing the fuck Trae Young chant. But a lot of guys are trying to get on like Knicks TV or some shit because they had people there with cameras. So they do a fuck Trae Young chant. And it was like 25, 30 people. And then some guy walks up and he goes, "Were you guys doing a Trae Young chant?" And they're like, "Yeah." And he goes, "I'm his dad." And one of the guys knew Trae Young's real name, which let me pull it up right now. His dad's name
His
is
name's Raymond, right?
Rayford.
Rayford.
So he goes, "Your name is not Rayford." And the guy goes, "Yes, it is." And then he goes on his phone, starts scrolling through his camera roll, and pulls out a draft night flick with him and Trey. And afterwards, I got a flick with him. It was cool, but a couple of my boys were talking to him, like, legitimately. They're like, where's Trey going? He goes, anywhere that can give him a chance to compete with teams like the Knicks. That's what he did outside, because they're talking about how all of them are Knicks fans that hated him. One kid went up to him and was like, I hate your son. It's kind of crazy.
Insane.
But he said it in like a more playful way, so it wasn't like
I
too
understand.
crazy. But no, I mean, like, that to me was like kind of highlighting, like, hey, like, even like him and his family, his camp, obviously know this team's not going to give me a chance to compete. Everybody knows. And at this point in his career, at 25 years old, it's really best. Maybe the Hawks give this 1-2 more years, knowing they can develop their young core. And honestly, Trey's going to help guys like Chris Shea develop. But then afterwards, in 2 years, you're going to want to maximize that trade equity.